Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison from Our Blooming Catholic Life, and I have a book review for you today. This is a print-on-demand book. It's by a fellow parishioner of mine, Michael Murphy. We reviewed one of his books before on the Eucharist. This one is called Sit, Stand, Kneel, Bow, or Genuflect, a Guide to the Modern Roman Catholic Liturgy. It is by St. Anastasia Press, 2023. Starts out with a quote from Benedict XVI. We must never forget that the Church is built around Christ, and that as St. Augustine, St. Thomas Aquinas, and St. Albert the Great have all said, following St. Paul, referencing 1 Corinthians 10:17, the Eucharist is the sacrament of the Church's unity, because we all form one single body, of which the Lord is the head. We must go back again and again to the Last Supper on Holy Thursday, where we were given a pledge of the mystery of our redemption on the cross. The Last Supper is the locus of the nascent Church, the womb containing the Church of every age. In the Eucharist, Christ's sacrifice is constantly renewed, and Pentecost is constantly renewed. May all of you become ever more deeply aware of the importance of the Sunday Eucharist, because Sunday, the first day of the week, is the day when we honor Christ, the day when we receive the strength to live each day the gift of God. Let's see here. Scripture references within the book, unless otherwise noted. All scriptural references are from the New American Bible, Revised Edition. The Bible is an English language Catholic translation of the Bible, the first significant update in over 20 years to the New American Bible, which was translated by members of the Catholic Biblical Association, initially published in 1970, released on March 9th, 2011. The library consists of the 1986 revision of the NAB New Testament with a fully revised Old Testament approved by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in 2010. There is quite a detailed table of contents, much like the last book of his. You can see it also has that ... format, which we like because it's easy to see. What's not as easy to see are these numbered sections. I do again wish those were in bold, or that the number stood out a little bit more. It doesn't stand out so much, maybe a tiny bit, but then this is sticking out here, so it's kind of confusing. There's not as much indentation as perhaps the author intends to have. So the sections are, let's see, there are 4 main sections: the Mass, Catholic calisthenics, liturgical prayers, a glossary of liturgical terms. So in the Mass, we have the introduction, our 4 ends or goals at Holy Mass, the general structure of Holy Mass, the structure of the Novus Ordo Missoi, or Mass of Paul VI, and under that we have gathering rites, liturgy of the Word, liturgy of the Eucharist. And then there's basic bodily gestures for Mass or in a church. Under Catholic calisthenics, we have the sign of the cross, 3 types of worship: genuflect, which is latria, reserved exclusively for God; bow, dulia, holy figures and objects; kneel, stand, sit, striking the breast, prayer posture, under which we have praying with folded hands posture, Orans posture, holding hands during the Our Father. We also have veiling, and then a summary. Under liturgical press, we have the sign of the cross, the signum cruci, the Confitor, the penitential rite, Gloria in excelsis Deo, the profession of faith, the Nicene Creed, the Sanctus, the Pater Noster, also called the Lord's Prayer or the Our Father, the doxology of the Lord's Prayer, the Agnus Dei, the prayer of humility. Additional prayers include the Te Deum, Tantum Ergo, also known as down in adoration falling, and O Salutaris Hostia, O Saving Victim. Under the glossary for liturgical terms, we also have vestments for exposition and benediction, and bibliography. Who reviewed the book? Mr. Andrew Michael Turner did a pre-publication review and gave input. So up until now, both the left and right hand top of the page have had the title of the book, but as soon as we encounter the first text, you can see the title of the book remains here, but now it's the section header. So let's see if that remains a section header. Oh, it switches after that. No. The left keeps the title of the book, and the right is the title of the section. Yes, it only switches with the 4 major sections. I can see here there are some charts, and I believe those are some color. Yep, some color pictures as well. Okay. We're going to come back here just a smidge. The bibliography. There's also a section in the back that is more books by the same author. It is interesting, the book title. Every time there's a blank page, there's still a book title. And in fact, they're still numbered, even though the bibliography is back here, but it's over, but it's still numbered. So a little oversight there. The bibliography is alphabetical, and it is 1 page, front and back. You can see back here the glossary of liturgical terms. I'm going to do that next. I didn't think. Nope, we'll go back to the beginning. The introduction. This book is written for everyone who wants to learn more about the Roman Catholic Mass, the essential liturgical items used, the components of the Church, and when to do what. Whatever your path, this book will enable you to comprehend all the smells and bells of the Catholic Church. Most of the topics covered in this book are also found in the traditional Latin Mass, also known as the Tridentine Mass, even though it primarily focuses on the Novus Ordo Missae, Latin, the New Order of the Mass, which Pope Paul VI instituted in 1969. Any Mass you attend will have a lot of advantages for you. You won't find everything in every church, and some local traditions may have been established by the ordinary of your diocese, but for the most part, you should be able to recognize almost everything. So in this introductory section, it's just a main normal text. You can see some bulleted points. Who are the main people in the gathering rites? You may have greeters and ushers. You may encounter the use of holy water, genuflection, entrance hymn, sign of the cross and greeting, penitential rite and gloria, the opening prayer. In the liturgy of the word, we have the first reading or lesson, the responsorial psalm, second reading or epistle, gospel, the homily, the creed, the prayer of the faithful. The liturgy of the Eucharist tells us there are 3 main parts: the preparation of the gifts, the Eucharistic prayer, and the communion rite. And there is a detailed treatment of the filioque, which was a cause for a great deal of trouble. I believe there's disagreement on the filioque. Does it tell you? Filioque clause, which was gradually incorporated into the creed in the Western Church starting in the 6th century, means "and the Son." In Latin, was added after the words "the Holy Spirit," who proceeds from the Father. In the 11th century, the papacy most likely approved it. The Protestant, Anglican, and Roman churches still use it. The Eastern churches have always rejected it because they view it as a theological error and an unauthorized addition to a venerable document. There's a note about praying for the Pope's intentions, which is an important one. That conversation comes up. So it said that there were 3 things we do at Mass: the preparation of gifts, the Eucharistic prayer, and the communion rite. I will say, though, it's a little confusing then because he has more subheadings than in that list. So he has the preparation of gifts and the Eucharistic prayer, but then we have the preface, the consecration, Trinitarian doxology, the Lord's Prayer, the sign of peace or pax, the Agnus Dei, the invitation to communion, rite of commissioning, announcements, salutations, blessing, dismissal. The basic bodily gestures starts right in there as well. Let's just skip ahead. We're skipping through a very common graphic used for making the sign of the cross. I don't see a citation for that image, but maybe all the image citations are in one place. It does talk about the 3 types of worship, although 2 were only listed out in the table of contents. You can see that they are all here. They are bulleted out. Let's get you some of those charts. So there are pictures. I did tell you there are some color pictures in here. is a chart on the types of worship. They do have, like when they have the sign of the cross, they have it here in Latin and English. Not sure if I pointed that right. Oh, so there's a number of prayers that are done that way. Latin. So like the Confiteor we have in Latin and English for the Tridentine Mass, and then Latin and English for the Novus Ordo Mass. The other ones just appear to be Latin and English. Here it's a little distracting to have the title up there because I think it's telling you to sit, stand, power, or genuflect with the prayer. I thought that there were more. There's a lot of sections there that have the Latin and the English. Here's the glossary of liturgical terms, and sometimes there are pictures for some of them. Even what is a narthex? I don't actually know. Our church has a narthex. Let's see here. Before and after Mass, the faithful greet one another in the gathering area, also known as the narthex. No, we don't. We're greeted at the front door by greeters. No, and you grab your papers in the narthex, and then you go in. And on the way out, so you talk more in the narthex on the way out in my church. But that's normally where you're going to get accosted by people trying to give you flyers or to sign up for something. That's where those people wait for you in the narthex. It is lovely to think that this is where this could be the social place. Now, in my church growing up, I thought we called it like a vestibule. Yes, we called it a vestibule. We'll get to that. And that is where we picked up things, but people never talked there. It was way too small. There was usually a card table, like your boxes of your envelopes or something were there. But everybody talked outside the church, no matter what the weather was. So this is saying the narthex is a gathering area, the space between the church's exterior and interior doors leading to the worship area. Here we form lines for processions and receive palms. This is where baptisms, funerals, and weddings start. This is where we are welcomed every Sunday. In addition, it serves as a location for parish announcements and literature related to religion. Finally, the narthex served as a waiting area for the unbaptized people and penitents who were not permitted inside the place of worship or to participate in all parts of the Mass in the early history of the Church. Although fewer restrictions exist on attending Mass, the narthex still exists. We mentally put aside our secular behavior in the gathering area because we are about to enter a sacred space, and our attitude, body language, and even our clothing should reflect the sacredness of that space. Wonderful. That is wonderful that's there. Let's change that from a vestibule. So the vestibule was originally a courtyard entrance. Then it became any entrance to a location. Nowadays, anteroom refers to the space inside a church between the exterior doors and the main structure. Well, that sounds a lot like the narthex, so I'm a little confused right now. Depending on the size of the building, the vestibule in Catholic churches is usually quite large. It is a space for bulletin boards, holy water font, book racks, and other amenities that inform worshipers before or after attending services or privately praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament in the church proper. Aha! Although the terms narthex and vestibule are frequently used interchangeably, there's a slight technical distinction between the two. The narthex is a porch or lobby that connects the outside to the main worship area, whereas a vestibule is a passage, hall, or room between a building's exterior door and the interior. Okay. That sounds exactly the same. I didn't get that distinction at all. But there is the whole glossary of terms. And he does go into the vestments as well. So that's nice to have. And again, our bibliography. So let's just grab another section because you're wondering about all the gestures. Let's see here. Prayer posture. Let's go to page 26. Prayer posture. Praying with folded hands. The significance of why most believers fold their hands during prayer is much more profound. Tradition in Christianity originates in the practices of ancient and late antique cultures. In the Jewish tradition, the Talmud provides evidence that some prayed with their hands folded as early as the post-exilic period and continue to do so even after the establishment of Christianity. I'd like to have dates for that. But it does give us an example. Rabbah, Abba ben Joseph, circa AD 280 to 352, a Jewish Babylonian sage, prayed with his hands folded according to the text. Some historians believe the earliest Christians adopted this practice from their Jewish ancestry. That's a little challenging for me because he's giving us a time after Christianity to say that. So I would have liked to have seen, I want to see the dates for that post-exilic period. That would be good. Another common belief is that the folded hand gesture originated from a Roman custom that signified submission. Religious historians trace the gesture's origin to the act of shackling a prisoner's hands with a vine or rope. The joined hands came to represent submission. By clasping the hands, the captured Roman soldiers, so your hands are tied. Whether they're like this or like this, your hands could be tied together at the wrist. I could see that. By clasping his hands, a captured Roman soldier could avoid immediate execution. The message was as clear today as the white flag of I surrender. Like this. Putting your hands up like this. Though now people kind of do that to worship now. But it also, if you're around police, means that you're submitting. But they're saying this is like, go ahead. Put the handcuffs on. So it's a sign of submission, they're saying. This type of joining hands to pledge allegiance remains in the ordination liturgy. For example, a bishop will clasp the hands of the priest he ordains and say, "Do you promise to show respect and obedience to me and my successors?" That is literally you're putting your hands inside somebody else's hands. So to me, I don't see it the same type of submission. That's submission to a father, saying literally, I put myself in your hands, which, the prisoner is saying the same thing. I surrender, I put myself in your hands, but one is expecting a different treatment than the other. So they are a little different, but I see what you're saying there. Many people have been instructed to cross their thumbs in the form of a cross as a part of the gesture, or like this, right? All of this culminates in a gesture that symbolizes devotion to God, directing our prayers towards heaven, and calling to mind the cross of Christ. Although Christians are not required to fold their hands when praying, it is a meaningful option with ancient roots and profound symbolic significance. By joining hands, subjects demonstrated their allegiance and paid homage to their rulers centuries later. Over time, clasping the hands together conveyed an acknowledgement of another's authority and a person's submission to that authority. I didn't see a single citation here at all. I don't know where this comes from. It's lovely thoughts. It doesn't explain. I don't know. Do altar servers and priests, are there places where they have particular prayer postures with their hands? I don't know where that comes from. I don't know. And it does talk about the Arans and the holding hands during the Our Father. It talks about veiling. Let's just grab another spot. I only really saw that 2 footnotes. No, there's another one. There's another tiny one here. So that's 10, 11, 13. So there's at least 13 footnotes. I'm surprised. His other book was all, noted. It was mostly quotes. The other book that we did on the Eucharist had a lot more. This has 13 footnotes, and that's it for the whole book. I'm just surprised. Where did he come up with these definitions and all? I don't know. I don't know. So do you have some questions? I think it's a great introduction and a great conversation starter. Without all the citations, it's not super authoritative feeling to me, but I think it's a great place to start. And again, that bibliography was probably going to lead you on to answer any further questions you have. This is probably a great book for most people. And so here it is by Michael Murphy, Sit, Stand, Kneel, Bow, or Genuflect, a guide to the modern Roman Catholic liturgy. Friends, may God bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the good Lord bless you. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.